Welcome back. While the social media network Facebook successfully brings people together, fears are high in many parts of the world that thousands of registered sex offenders can use the site to access young people. Well, Facebook today introduced a special panic button, particularly for young people who fear that they are at risk.
The dangers of paedophiles prowling the internet have been well documented in recent years. The criminals may have ever more sophisticated technology at their fingertips, but the specialist police unit set up to hunt them down says it's keeping one step ahead of the perverts. The Child Exploitation and Online Protection Centre, or CEOP, rescued a record number of children from online abusers last year. 278 youngsters were helped by the unit over 12 months. That's double the number for the previous year. 417 suspected child sex offenders were arrested for offences ranging from possession of indecent images to rape. And CEOP says it also disrupted the activities of 96 networks sharing images of child abuse. The units had a high-profile clash with Facebook recently after accusing the social networking site of dragging its feet unnecessarily over putting a panic button on its pages for children to contact CEOP when they feel something's wrong. So far, investigators have received more than 6,000 reports of suspicious activity online, including grooming through the button.
Panic button application on its social networking site. Users will be able to access an advice centre from their homepage where they'll be able to report sexual abuse or suspicious behaviour. An advertisement for the service will appear on the homepage of all users aged between 13 and 18. Today's launch follows months of negotiations between the Child Exploitation and Online Protection Centre and Facebook, which initially resisted the idea.
The safety of our nation's youth is important to us here at We News, so we encourage all parents to take the steps necessary to protect their children from predators. Now we focus on our environment at large. BP has finally been making progress towards stemming the Gulf of Mexico oil leak. Submarine devices are trying to bolt down a pipe-like connector called a flange spool that will sit on top of the spewing wellbore, and are aiming for completion early Monday after removing a busted piece of pipe that was bolted around the leak. From there, a new cap will be placed atop the gusher to provide a tight seal that should eventually allow the oil giant to capture all the crude leaking from the well for the first time since an April 20th oil rig explosion set off the environmental crisis. BP's Senior Vice President Kent Wells said on Sunday that he was pleased with the progress, but hastened to add that the operation was still expected to last up to 6 more days. Officials won't be satisfied. The cap is working until they've run tests on whether it can withstand the tremendous pressure of oil pushing up from below the ocean floor. Meanwhile, as we'll see in this National Geographic report, new technology could help locate hard-to-spot oil on coastal areas.
The images that you see are those of the oil shown under ultraviolet light, glowing yellow and orange on a seashore near Pensacola, Florida. A ghost crab feeds on the oil washed ashore after the Deepwater Horizon rig exploded and sank in the Gulf of Mexico some 3 months ago. A coastal biologist, Rip Kirby, hopes that the use of the UV light method will allow scientists and cleanup crews to locate hard-to-find oil, such as crude mixed with mud or light stains on sand. According to the National Geographic report, under UV light, clean sand appears purple or black, while calcium carbonate shells glow blue. The fluorescence of hydrocarbons under UV light has long been known by scientists. However, this may be the first time that the technology is used in a large-scale cleanup effort outside the laboratory. According to Kirby, ultraviolet lights could make it possible to determine how long ago oil had washed up upon a specific region. The colors produced under the UV light could aid in determining the time frame, where freshly deposited oil has a greenish-orange glow, while those dried on the sand for a longer period of time had a more orange tint. At this point, it is still unknown why the oil from the Gulf glows the colors that it does, where hydrocarbons can glow from a range of pinks to oranges. Further analysis in a lab setting is still needed. There is a hope that the use of UV lighting at particular wavelengths could help in the cleanup efforts in the Gulf, although those who work with these gears would need to use protective eyewear. At this point, the cleanup in the affected Gulf of Mexico coastal regions continues, and so does the search for applicable solutions to the world's most devastating oil spill. This has been Kimberly Martins for WE News.
Well, it's over, and around the world people are suffering from PWCDD, also known as Post-World Cup Distress Disorder. Well, here's Jomo Williams with a recap of yesterday's not so particularly invigorating matchup between Spain and the Netherlands.
So newly crowned World Cup champion Spain wasted no time in exiting the African continent and heading back home. They are expected to have an ordinance with King Ferdinand, after which they will embark on an open-top bus parade along the streets of Madrid to celebrate their win. A win which can only be described as the scrappiest and most unattractive ever played at a World Cup final. No less than 14 yellow cards and a red card, a record amount for any final, were handed out on the night. It was almost like the referees were trying to make up for cards missed in previous games. The Netherlands' John Hettinger was actually dismissed on a second yellow in the second period of overtime, a break which Spain took no time in exploiting. With just 4 minutes left in extra time, Andres Iniesta hit home a wonderful volley from within the penalty box off a beautiful cross from Cesc Fabregas, ultimately dashing the Netherlands' hopes of the match at least heading into penalties. The Dutch had two excellent chances of their own to score and possibly win, but both were missed by forward Arjen Robben. Twice he broke away from the pack to be one-on-one with the Spanish goalie, and each time his efforts were to naught. After the match, Holland coach Bert van Marwijk admitted to the press that the better team had won. There was a lot of jostling on field, and not just between players. In fact, when the goal was declared, a lot of Netherlands players went to take their case of an offside to the referee. Even after the match was over, some Netherlands players continued to argue with the referee and the linesman about the call. However, as with the other decisions made at the World Cup, the goal was left to stand, and Holland looked on in dismay as Spain hoisted the cup for the first time, leaving them for yet another year holding silver medals. Well, I for one am glad the World Cup is finally over, simply to stop guessing messages from my service providers about predicting the scores. This is Jomo Williams for WE News.
We're taking another quick break, but first this question. Would you stick a ferret down your pants? When we come back, Jomo explains. Stay with us.